Police officers enter thousands of homes every year responding to calls. Most of the time, it's routine. A welfare check, a missing person report, a neighbor calling about suspicious activity. But sometimes, when officers step inside a house, they find something they never expected. Something disturbing, something hidden, something that turns a simple call into a full criminal investigation. Tonight, we're looking at some of the most disturbing things police have ever discovered inside people's homes. And in several of these cases, the truth was hiding in places no one thought to look. In January of 2019, police in Seminole County, Florida, arrived at a quiet home after receiving a call about a possible family tragedy. Inside the house, officers quickly realized something was terribly wrong. 3 members of the same family had been found dead inside the home. The investigation soon focused on Grant Mato, the son of the family. Grant had been involved in an online relationship with a woman he had never actually met, and he had drained tens of thousands of dollars from his family trying to support her. When his parents discovered the financial damage he had caused, tensions inside the home escalated dramatically. Police bodycam footage shows officers carefully searching the house, documenting the scene and trying to understand what had happened. Investigators eventually concluded that Grant Mato had murdered his parents and brother inside the home after the family confronted him about the money. The disturbing case shocked the community and quickly became one of Florida's most widely discussed murder investigations. Grant Mato was later convicted and sentenced to life in prison. He conducted one of the most gruesome acts, all because his family confronted him about spending all their money on his online crush. When love gets in the way, I guess he just didn't know how to act, other than violence. The jury found him guilty of 3 counts of premeditated first-degree murder. Prosecutors sought the death penalty, but because the jury's recommendation for death was not unanimous, the judge was required by Florida law to impose an automatic life sentence. He received 1 life sentence for each of the 3 victims, to be served without the chance of ever being released. He is currently serving his sentence at the Florida State Prison. On August 31st, 2016, Carla Brown and her boyfriend, Charlie Carver, arrived at a 95-acre property in Woodruff, South Carolina. They were there for a simple cleaning job, a gig Carla had done for real estate agent Todd Kohlhepp several times before. But this time, the gate locked behind them. What was Kohlhepp's motive? To the world, he was a professional. To his victims, he was a predator, fulfilling a lifelong dark fantasy of control. According to Carla's later testimony, Kohlhepp didn't just want a victim. He wanted a companion who was forced to love him. He described it as an infatuation, telling Carla she was beautiful and smart. Kohlhepp actually explained the concept of Stockholm Syndrome to Carla. He told her that eventually it would kick in and she would develop feelings for him, and they would be happy together. But in reality, he viewed her as his property. His motive was the ultimate exercise of power, deciding who lived, who died, and who was kept as a prisoner for his own twisted version of a relationship. While Charlie was tragically murdered immediately upon their arrival, Carla was taken to a 30-foot metal shipping container. For the next 65 days, this was her world. Carla described the container as pitch black. Inside, Kohlhepp had stocked shelves with rations, crackers, and bottled water, preparing for a long-term imprisonment. When investigators finally broke the locks on November 3, 2016, they found Carla chained like a dog. She had a heavy chain around her neck that was bolted to the wall, limiting her movement to a small area on a makeshift bed. Every day, Kohlhepp would visit her. He would show her the graves of other victims on the property to ensure she knew that any attempt to escape would result in her death. He told her she was his now and that she would never leave. Carla later told Dr. Phil that she realized her only hope was to play along. She made him believe his plan was working, hoping it would make him let his guard down just enough for her to be found. The rescue wasn't a stroke of luck. It was the result of diligent police work tracking Carla's last known cell phone pings. When deputies arrived on the property, they heard a rhythmic banging coming from inside the metal container. As they cut the locks and the light flooded in, Kayla's first words weren't about her own safety. She immediately told officers exactly what Kohlhepp had done to Charlie, ensuring the monster who held her would never be able to claim it was a misunderstanding. Carla Brown is often called the real hero of this story. Because of her strength to survive those 2 months in the dark, a serial killer who had remained undetected for over a decade, including the 2003 Superbike motorsports murders, was finally brought to justice. Imagine sitting in your living room watching TV and feeling a pair of eyes on you. You check the windows, locked. You check the doors, bolted, but the feeling doesn't go away. In 1987, the Andrews family in Pepperell, Massachusetts didn't have to imagine. They thought they were being haunted. Their furniture moved. Their walls whispered. But the truth was far more terrifying than a ghost. It was a 17-year-old boy named Daniel LaPlante, and he had been living inside their walls for months. It started with a phone call. Annie Andrews, 16, began talking to a boy who claimed to be a neighbor. He seemed normal enough, so she agreed to a date. When Daniel LaPlante showed up, however, he didn't look like his voice. He was unkempt, strange, and the date was a disaster. Annie told him she didn't want to see him again. Daniel didn't take no for an answer. Instead of leaving, he found a way into the Andrews home. He discovered a crawl space behind a built-in cabinet that led into the structural voids of the house. For weeks, the Andrews family was gaslit by a poltergeist. The living room. They would find the TV turned to a different channel. The kitchen. Food would disappear or be left out on the counter. The walls. They heard scratching and thumping coming from inside the sheetrock. The escalation was chilling. One afternoon, Annie and her sister found writing on the walls in what appeared to be blood, later found to be ketchup and paint, saying things like, "I'm back," and "I'm watching you." The breaking point. Annie's father, Ray, was walking through the house when he saw a figure standing in a bedroom doorway wearing a blonde wig and a dress, holding a hatchet. Daniel had been wearing the girl's mother's clothes while they slept. Ray chased the figure into a closet, but when he opened the door, it was empty. Daniel had vanished back into the walls. Police eventually found Daniel hiding in a crawl space behind a dresser. He was sent to a juvenile facility, but this isn't where the story ends. This was just the warning shot. Less than a year later, while out on bail, Daniel LaPlante's obsession with domestic invasion turned deadly. In December 1987, he broke into the home of the Gustafson family in Townsend. Priscilla Gustafson, a nursery school teacher who was pregnant at the time, was home with her 2 young children. In a crime that shocked the nation for its sheer brutality, LaPlante murdered Priscilla and both of her children. He was eventually captured in a nearby wooded area, hiding in a dumpster. Daniel LaPlante was sentenced to multiple life terms. He remains one of the most feared figures in Massachusetts criminal history, not just for what he did, but for the way he did it. He proved that the most dangerous place in the world might be the space behind your own bedroom wall. For decades, it seemed the story of Daniel LaPlante was over, closed by the heavy doors of a life sentence without the possibility of parole. But in 2017, the law changed. The Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts ruled that because LaPlante was only 17 when he committed the Gustafson murders, he could not be held forever without a chance at release. Suddenly, the ghost in the walls had a path to freedom. At his resentencing hearing, LaPlante sat in a courtroom once again. Now in his 40s, he apologized to the families, his lawyers arguing that his youth at the time meant he deserved a meaningful opportunity to re-enter society. They pushed for a sentence that would have made him eligible for parole immediately. But the Gustafson family wasn't silent. They, along with prosecutors, fought back, describing him as a calculated predator who had never shown true remorse. The judge ultimately agreed. While she couldn't keep him in for life without any hope, she sentenced him to 3 consecutive life terms. This means he has to serve 15 years for each victim, a total of 45 years. As of now, Daniel LaPlante won't even be eligible to ask for parole until around 2032, when he will be 62 years old. For the survivors and the community of Townsend, it's a small victory in a battle to ensure that the man who lived in the walls stays behind bars. It was a Tuesday afternoon in Louisville, Kentucky, the kind of quiet neighborhood where kids play on the sidewalk without a second thought. But at 5:40 p.m., the silence was shattered. 6-year-old Abigail Hernandez was playing in her front yard when a man pulled up in a tan sedan, grabbed her, and sped off. The only clue? A neighbor's quick eyes and a blurry description of a car. Within minutes, an Amber Alert lit up every phone in the state. For the next 24 hours, the city held its breath. We've seen how these stories usually end. But this time, the Bodycam was rolling for a miracle. Day turned to night, and then to the next afternoon. Police were drowning in tips until one stood out. A car matching the description was parked at a house just a few miles away. Officers Ponder and Evans were the first on the scene. As we look at the Bodycam footage, notice the silence. The officers aren't sirens blaring, they are hunting. They approach a small, unassuming house. Officers Ponder and Evans were patrolling the area when they spotted the tan sedan turning onto a side street. They didn't wait for a better location. They pulled him over immediately. As you see in the footage, the tension is at a breaking point. The officers approach the car with guns drawn, unsure if the suspect is armed. Then you hear it. From the back seat of that car, a faint, terrified cry. Officer Ponder rushes to the passenger side, opens the door, and there she is. He doesn't just recover a victim, he scoops her out of that seat like she's his own daughter. You can hear his breath hitch as he realizes they got there just in time.
One more subject in the car.
Open the passenger door!
Lay down, on the ground,
Open the passenger door! Driver or passenger? Hello. It's okay. Come here. It's okay.
While Abigail was being rushed to a waiting ambulance, police were tackling the man responsible, Robbie Wilt. Wilt had no previous connection to the family. He told investigators he saw her, liked her, and decided to take her. It was a crime of opportunity, the most disturbing kind. He had even tried to comfort her by giving her toys, a chilling attempt at grooming that was caught short by the rapid police response. Because of the speed of the Louisville Metro Police, Abigail was home within hours of her rescue. Wilt was charged with kidnapping and eventually sentenced to 28 years in prison. We watch these body cam videos for the scares or the action, but cases like Abigail's remind us why these cameras exist. They capture the moments where humanity wins. Officer Ponder later said that hearing her cry was the most beautiful sound he had ever heard because it meant she was still alive. That wraps up today's look at the most disturbing and intense police footage. Which of these stories stayed with you the most? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more deep dives into the cases that changed everything. I'm Nightfall Files, and I'll see you in the next one.